made a shorter video. I wanted to make a longer video about this because um, this just kind of got me thinking a little bit because it all kind of makes sense, really. So, as I mentioned in the shorter video, when Daniel gives the succession of kingdoms, it's in regards to how they came about. So, in Daniel chapter 7, the first he saw was like a lion, the second was like a bear, and there was four of them. Well, the the bear, the one that was second defeated the one that was first, and the one that was third defeated the one that was second, and that's how it goes. But the fourth one, it's just 10 horns. It's the future one, and out of that comes the final little horn guy, the type of person that we've seen in the past, such as like Antiochus or Herod, those kind of guys. They were all a shadow of this last final guy to come. So anyway, so keep that in mind as we go. And then it starts kind of breaking it down in chapter 8. It says he saw a ram with two horns and then a he-goat. Well, the ram with two horns was Medo-Persia. The he-goat was Greece, Alexander the Great, that destroyed Medo-Persia. And then it goes on to chapter basically 11 is where it starts breaking down this vision even more, because it starts talking about uh, basically how Alexander the Great's uh, kingdom was divided into the four winds of heaven, and what came from that was Antiochus Epiphanes. And he was the one that basically desecrated the temple until the Maccabees rededicated it. And so pretty much all of chapter 11 up until verse 31 is talking about how fourth the four kingdoms came about and how Antiochus came from that. But then 36 starts talking about a new guy, and that's Herod. And Herod, as I said in the other video, was a client king. He was installed by Rome. And so he came later on and he defeated the Seleucid Empire, um, which was where Antiochus, which was what Antiochus ruled, and he defeated the Parthians, and yeah, he was an Idumean, he was an Edomite. He was basically from the area of modern day Jordan, and he was installed by Rome to basically have a presence there in that area. And he is a picture of the final guy. So when you get to 36 all the way to basically to chapter 12, this is talking about Herod. And if you just read it, it's basically a picture of the guy, the final guy. That'll, you know, basically like try to wage war against the return of the Messiah. So keep that in mind, because in the New Testament, it breaks down the 10 horn kingdom, because this guy's going to come from a 7 head 10 horn beast, and those horns are kings, which it says in Daniel chapter, what was it, 8, I believe, or no, 7, the fourth beast in verses 7 and 8 of chapter 7. I saw a fourth beast, and it had 10 horns. And there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. So the final beast is going to be a 10 horn or a 10 kingdom confederation. And in the New Testament, like Revelation chapter 17, it breaks that down even more. And it says, The 10 horns are 10 kings, receive no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings with 1 hour for the beast. So they receive, these 10 kings come about in this final 70th week, the final 7 years. At some point, probably probably pretty soon after that final 7 years kicks off, they take charge. In fact, I think it's probably the guy who confirms that 7 year covenant to start the last 7 years is going to be part of this 10 kingdom confederation. So it's going to be pretty well formed at the start of this thing. But let's see where it says. It gives an interpretation of it. Yeah, it says here the 10 horns which thou sawest among the beasts. No, it's not that. Where is it? It says like 5 are fallen, one is. Yeah, the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, one is, and the other is not yet come. Well, these 7 heads, or 7 kings, are interpreted as the 7 major empires of Scripture, all throughout the Bible, which was Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo Persia, Greece, and Rome. So it says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7. So he's one of the previous 7 that I just mentioned, but he is not. So it's not Rome, because Rome was at the time of this. But it also says he is not yet is. And in verse 8, it says at the end of verse 8, the beast that was and is not and yet is. And why is that? It's probably because it's like Herod. Herod wasn't a Roman, but he was installed by Rome. So he he was, but is not yet is. You know what I mean? Like, he's installed by Rome as a client king. He was actually titled King of the Jews, built the temple, which we expect to be built. So this guy is going. Herod was a type of this guy that's going to be to come. But he's going to not be Rome. He's going to be installed by Rome, or probably this 10 king confederation, whatever it is. You know, Rome could just be a symbol of the West, or Rome, it could actually be Rome, or like the European Union or something like that. But they're going to install this client king, and who I think it'll probably be, because we know he's one of the 7 previous, but it's not Rome. I think he'll be Assyrian, because Scripture also talks about that. All throughout the Bible. If you look in Isaiah like 11, Isaiah 30, Micah 5, talks about the Assyrian. It's always the Assyrian that comes and tramples their borders. And so, as Herod was an Idumean, an Edomite, I think this final guy that's going to be installed is going to be an Assyrian. You know, and there's a good candidate right now, such as the guy Al-Jalani in Syria. That would be a great candidate perfectly, because the West, thinks he's just, you know, this amazing guy, that was once either ISIS or Al Qaeda. He was like one of the head guys in that, but now he puts on a suit, and all of a sudden they just think he's, a diplomat and a regular politician. That would be a guy, especially if he starts becoming an ally, even, helping in conflicts with Western countries, that would even make him more of an option. But my best guess, seeing how all that makes sense, is that this final guy is going to be like an installed guy like Herod was, but he's going to be an Assyrian instead of an Idumean, an Edomite. So that's something to definitely look for in the future. We haven't heard much about that Al-Jilani guy lately, but I guess we'll see if maybe in the near future if you start hearing more about him or maybe some other guy pops up. But yeah, just something to, you know, something to keep an eye on in the near future. But thanks for watching.